Ladies, there's something so powerful living inside of you that most men cannot even put it into words. They don't know what to call it. They just know when it's gone, something in them breaks. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the most misunderstood truths in love, that the woman who moves in silence, who loves with standards, and who walks with purpose becomes the woman a man cannot sleep without. This isn't about games. This isn't about manipulation. This is about you finally understanding the depth of your own value and what happens to a man when he realizes he's standing in front of something rare. The moment you stop over-explaining yourself is the moment everything changes, not just with him, with you, with the way you carry yourself into a room, with the way you respond to a phone call that comes 2 hours late, with the way you decide, quietly, firmly, that your peace is no longer up for debate. See, most women have been conditioned since childhood to make others comfortable, to soften the truth, to add "I'm sorry" before saying something they have every right to say. You were taught that if you explain yourself clearly enough, if you find the right words, if you say it gently enough, then he'll finally get it. He'll finally see you. He'll finally understand what you've been trying to tell him all along. And so you talk, and you explain, and you send a long message, and you bring it up again over dinner, and you cry and lay it all out. Your heart, your fears, your needs, like evidence in the case you're trying to win. But here's the truth. Nobody sat you down and told you. You were never on trial. You don't need to build a case. And love, real love, should never require you to convince someone of your worth. When a woman constantly explains herself to a man, she doesn't realize what she's actually communicating. She thinks she's being vulnerable. She thinks she's being open and honest. And yes, in a healthy relationship, vulnerability is beautiful. But there is a difference between vulnerability and audition. There is a difference between opening your heart and handing someone a manual on how to take advantage of it. Every time you over-explain, every time you justify why you felt hurt or why you needed something, you are unknowingly teaching him that your feelings require his approval before they're valid. You're showing him that his reaction to your truth matters more than the truth itself. And he learns. Men learn fast when it benefits them. He learns that if he goes quiet long enough, you'll panic and fill the silence with apologies. He learns that if he seems unbothered, you'll work twice as hard to reestablish the connection. He learns that your emotions are something he can manage, not something he needs to genuinely meet. And none of this happens because he's evil. Most of the time it happens because you never showed him where the boundary was. You kept moving it every time he got close to it. So what happens when you stop? What happens when you feel hurt? And instead of sending 3 paragraphs about why, you simply say, "That didn't sit right with me," and leave it there? What happens when you stop rehearsing speeches in the bathroom mirror about how to make him understand you? What happens when you decide that if he doesn't get it by now, another explanation isn't going to be what changes things? He notices. That's what happens. He notices almost immediately, because men are deeply, quietly aware of the energy women carry. They may not say it, they may not even consciously register it, but they feel the shift. And when a woman who used to pour herself into explanation suddenly becomes still, suddenly becomes grounded in herself in a way that doesn't require his validation to stay standing, something in him gets unsettled, not because you've become cold, but because you've become certain. And certainty in a woman is something a man cannot ignore, cannot dismiss, and honestly cannot stop thinking about. There is a version of you that is so clear on who she is that she doesn't need a single person to agree. She knows what she felt. She knows what she needs. She knows what she will and will not accept. And she holds all of that not with anger, not with attitude, but with this quiet, unshakable knowing. That woman right there, she is the most powerful woman in any room she walks into. And the man who's been taking her explanations for granted suddenly realizes he's been standing next to something extraordinary this whole time without treating it like it was. Now let me be honest with you about something, because this isn't always easy to hear. Sometimes when you stop explaining yourself, he won't rise to the occasion. Sometimes the silence you offer him will be met with more silence. Sometimes he'll call it attitude. Sometimes he'll say you've changed, like that's supposed to be an insult. And in those moments, it's going to take everything in you not to go back, not to soften it, not to say, I didn't mean it like that, when you meant every single word. That pull you feel, that urge to smooth it over to make the discomfort stop, that's not love. That's a habit. And habits, no matter how long you've had them, can be unlearned. Because your job in a relationship is not to manage his emotions at the expense of your own. Your job is not to be so easy to deal with that you disappear. Your job is not to make yourself small enough that he never feels challenged, never feels the weight of your expectations, never has to ask himself if he's truly showing up for you. Your job is to be fully unapologetically yourself. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, that discomfort is information. It's telling you something important about whether this person is built for the real you or just the version of you that kept quiet to keep the peace. The woman who stops over-explaining doesn't become less loving. She becomes more honest. She becomes more present. She stops wasting energy trying to be understood by someone who isn't trying hard enough to understand her. And she redirects all of that into knowing herself deeper, trusting herself more, and building a life that doesn't depend on anyone's comprehension to feel whole. And that right there, that wholeness, is what makes a man cry at 2 a.m. without being able to explain why. He lost something he couldn't name. Because you stopped explaining it to him. Most women are afraid to love fully, and honestly, who could blame them? You've seen what love costs. You've watched it take women apart, piece by piece. Strong women, smart women, women who swore they'd never let anyone have that kind of power over them. And then one day somebody looked at them the right way, said the right things, showed up at the right moment, and suddenly all those walls they spent years building came down overnight. And instead of something beautiful being on the other side, there was just another person who didn't know what to do with a heart that big. So you learned to hold back. You learned to give a little and wait, to love at a safe distance, to keep one foot out the door just in case you needed to run. You told yourself it was wisdom. You called it protecting your peace. But deep down in the place you don't talk about out loud, you know what it really was. It was fear dressed up in sensible clothing. And I'm not here to judge that. I'm here to tell you that the very thing you've been afraid to do, loving someone fully, completely, without a safety net, is also the very thing that changes everything when you finally walk away. Here's what nobody prepares you for. When a woman loves a man genuinely, not the performance of love, not the strategic showing up, not the love that's always calculating how much he's giving back, but real love, the kind that wakes up early to pray for someone, the kind that notices when he's carrying something he hasn't said out loud yet, the kind that chooses him again on the days when choosing him isn't easy. That love leaves a mark that no amount of time fully erases, not in her, and certainly not in him, because real love from a real woman is not something most men encounter more than once in their lives. They might have relationships, they might have situationships, companions, people who were comfortable and convenient, but a woman who loved them with her whole chest, who showed up without an agenda, who genuinely wanted to see them become who they were supposed to be, that is rare. And most men don't realize just how rare it is until she's gone. This is the part that hurts to sit with. You cried during it. You cried when it wasn't working. You cried when you tried to fix it. You cried when you finally accepted that some things cannot be fixed, only released. You cried when you packed up the little pieces of yourself you'd left in his space and carried them back home. You cried in your car, in the shower, at random Tuesday afternoons when a song came on and your chest caved in without warning. You did all the crying. You carried all the weight of the ending while he walked around looking unbothered, maybe even relieved, but give it time. Give it real time. Not a week, not a month. Time enough for the noise of daily life to quiet down. Time enough for him to stop being distracted by whatever came next. And in that silence, when it's late and the room is too still and there's nobody next to him who makes him feel the way you did, that's when it hits him, not gradually, all at once. Like something falling off a shelf in the middle of the night, he starts remembering not the arguments, not the hard seasons, but the small things. The way you checked on him, the way you believed in something inside of him that he hadn't fully believed in himself yet. The way being loved by you felt different from anything else he'd ever known, and he couldn't quite articulate why, but he felt it every single day, even when he was too proud or too distracted or too emotionally unavailable to honor it properly. And that's when he cries, not in front of anyone, not in a way he'd ever admit, but alone in the way men grieve things they were too foolish to hold on to, quietly, privately, and far too late. Now here's where I need you to pay close attention, because this next part is the part that actually matters for you. Don't you dare use that as a reason to make yourself smaller while you're still in it. Don't you dare love halfway because you're already pre-managing the grief of losing him. Some women are so afraid of how much it's going to hurt when it ends that they never fully show up while it's happening. They protect themselves so carefully that they never actually experience the relationship at all. And then it ends anyway, because half love never kept anyone, and they're left grieving something that was never fully real because they never let it be. Loathe them fully while you're there. Love them with your whole heart, not recklessly. Boundaries are not the enemy of love, they are the architecture of it. But within those boundaries, love him like you mean it. Be present, be genuine. Be the kind of woman who, when she looks back, can say with complete honesty, I gave that everything I had. I showed up as my whole self. I loved without hiding, because here's what that does for you regardless of what it does to him. It builds something inside you that fear never could. It builds a knowing, a deep, settled, unshakable knowing that you are capable of the kind of love most people only read about, that you are not broken, that you did not fail, that you love correctly, it just landed in the wrong hands. And that knowing is what heals you faster than anything else ever could. You don't leave wondering if you did enough. You don't carry the quiet torture of all the things left unsaid, all the love left ungiven, because you were too guarded to give it. You leave whole, sad maybe, still tender probably, but whole. He lost a woman who loved him with everything she had. And you discovered that everything you had was always enough. You were never the problem. You were the gift he didn't know how to keep. And one day, you'll give that same love to someone who has been on his knees his whole life quietly praying for exactly you. There's a kind of woman that stops a man cold, not because of how she looks, not because of what she's wearing or how she laughs or the way she walks into a room. Those things get attention, sure, but attention is cheap. Any woman can get attention. What this particular woman has is something deeper, something quieter, something that most people cannot even name when they're standing in front of it, but they feel it in their bones. She is rooted, and that rootedness, that unshakable, undisturbed, deeply settled sense of who she is the most disarming thing a man will ever encounter in his life. See, most men, whether they admit it or not, have spent a significant portion of their relationships learning how to manage a woman's emotions. Not because they're monsters, but because that's what was available to them. Women who needed constant reassurance. Women whose sense of self rose and fell depending on how he was treating them that week. Women who were perfectly confident on Monday, but by Wednesday, after one unanswered text, had completely unraveled. And he learned how to navigate that. He learned that a little distance brought her closer. He learned that a little coldness made her work harder. He learned that his mood had the power to completely reshape her day. And somewhere in that dynamic, without even fully realizing it, he stopped respecting the relationship. Not because he's a bad person, but because you cannot fully respect something you can control that easily. Then she walks in, and he tries the same things. He pulls back a little to see what happens. He goes quiet for a day or two. He gives her just enough to keep her interested and waits for her to start chasing, and she doesn't. She goes about her life. She tends to her own garden. She wakes up the next morning and makes her own peace the first priority, not him, not his silence, not the meaning behind his distance. She does not pick up the phone and send the "Are we okay?" message. She does not rehearse conversations in her head or lose sleep trying to decode his behavior. She is simply completely, unshakably fine. And that breaks something open in him that he didn't even know was closed. Because now he's dealing with something he has no framework for. A woman whose emotional world does not orbit around him. A woman who genuinely, not performatively, has a life that is full and meaningful with or without his participation. And the question that starts living in the back of his mind, the one he can't shake no matter how much he tries, is this: what do I have to do to actually matter to her? Now, how do I keep her calm? Not how do I manage her expectations, but how do I matter to a woman who is already whole? That question is the beginning of a man finally growing up. But here is what I need you to understand, because this is where so many women get it wrong. This is not a strategy. You cannot fake rootedness. You cannot perform stability for 2 weeks and then fall apart when he doesn't respond the way you hoped. A man can feel the difference between a woman who is genuinely at peace and a woman who is performing peace while quietly screaming on the inside. One draws him in. The other eventually exhausts him. And more importantly, performing stability for someone else's benefit while you're actually drowning inside is one of the loneliest things a woman can do to herself. This has to be real. And making it real takes work that has nothing to do with him. It means building a relationship with yourself that is so honest, so nurturing, so consistent that you become your own safest place. It means doing the thing you've been putting off. The therapy, the journaling, the prayer, the long walks where you finally let yourself feel everything you've been pushing down. It means finding work that makes you feel like you're contributing something meaningful to the world. It means friendships that fill you up rather than drain you. It means a faith or a practice or a morning routine that reminds you every single day before you check your phone, before you see if he texted back, before the noise of the world rushes in, that you are already okay. You are already enough. Your day does not need his input to be good. That is not built overnight, but it is built one decision at a time, one boundary honored at a time, one morning where you choose your own peace over the anxiety of waiting at a time. And as you build it, something extraordinary starts happening. The things that used to shake you, the hot and cold behavior, the inconsistency, the way he shows up fully for 2 weeks and then disappears into himself, those things start losing their power over you. Not because you stop caring, but because your caring no longer comes at the expense of your own stability. You can care about someone deeply and still not allow their confusion to become your crisis. You can want a relationship to work and still not abandon yourself in the effort to save it. That distinction between caring and losing yourself in someone is where your power lives, because a man who is with a rooted woman cannot coast. He cannot give minimum effort and maximum uncertainty and expect you to fill in all the gaps with your anxiety. He has to actually show up. He has to be consistent, because inconsistency simply doesn't move you the way it used to. He has to communicate, because silence doesn't send you spiraling into apology mode anymore. He has to rise, genuinely rise, to be a worthy presence in a life that is already good without him. And the men who are not ready to rise will leave. Let them. Their leaving is not your loss. It is your filtering system working exactly as it should. The men who stay, the ones who look at your groundedness not with intimidation but with inspiration, the ones who see your stability and feel called to build something equally stable within themselves. Those are the men worth building with. But none of that happens until you do the inner work first. None of it. You cannot attract a rooted man while you are still looking for someone to be your roots. Grow your own. Go so deep into yourself that no storm, no silent treatment, no mixed signals, no emotional unavailability can pull you up from the ground, because a woman who cannot be shaken is a woman who cannot be taken for granted. And that woman, she doesn't just get loved. She gets chosen every single day on purpose, with intention, by someone who knows exactly what it means to be trusted with something that rare. At some point in your life, someone made you feel like you were asking for too much. Maybe it was subtle. Maybe it wasn't something that was said directly, but something you felt in the sighs, in the eye rolls, in the way he'd go quiet when you expressed a need, like your needs were an inconvenience he hadn't budgeted for. Maybe it was the way he'd turn it around, make you feel dramatic, oversensitive, difficult, until you started second-guessing yourself, until you started shrinking the list, until you started accepting less, not because less was enough, but because asking for more kept leading to arguments you didn't have the energy to keep having. And slowly, without even realizing it was happening, you started editing yourself. You stopped mentioning the thing that bothered you. You stopped bringing up the conversation that needed to happen. You convinced yourself that wanting consistency was needy, that wanting communication was clingy, that wanting someone to actually show up for you emotionally was somehow an unrealistic expectation in the modern world. You made yourself easier to deal with. You made yourself lower maintenance. You made yourself, in the most painful and invisible way, smaller. And the relationship survived for a while. Because relationships built on one person continuously shrinking to accommodate another person's limitations can survive for a very long time. But surviving is not the same as thriving. And deep down in the place you check in with late at night when everything is quiet, you knew the difference. Here's what I need you to understand about that version of you, the one who kept lowering the bar hoping he'd finally clear it. She wasn't weak. She was trying. She was doing what women are so often praised for doing: being flexible, being understanding, being patient, being gracious. She was giving him the grace she would have wanted if the roles were reversed. And that is not something to be ashamed of. That is actually a reflection of the depth of love you are capable of. But grace without standards is not grace. It is self-abandonment with a prettier name. Because here is the thing about a man who calls your standards too high. He is not giving you information about your worth. He is giving you information about his willingness. Those are two completely different things, and confusing them has cost women years of their lives. When a man says you want too much, what he's actually saying, whether he knows it or not, is that he does not want to do the work of becoming someone who can give that. He is comfortable where he is, and your expectations are making his comfort zone feel crowded. That discomfort is not a sign that you need to adjust. That discomfort is the relationship doing its job, showing you clearly and honestly who this person is choosing to be right now. Some women spend years trying to inspire a man into becoming someone who is ready for them. They think if they just love him long enough, if they just stay patient enough, if they just demonstrate their value clearly enough, he will eventually rise. And sometimes, rarely, beautifully, that happens. But most of the time what actually happens is this: he rises for the next woman, the one who came after you. The one who arrived after you had already done all the hard work of loving him through his unreadiness, and she gets the version of him that you prayed for, waited for, and quietly broke yourself trying to build. That truth is one of the most painful things a woman can reckon with. And I'm not going to soften it because you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort right now. You were not wrong to want what you wanted. You were just investing it in someone who had already decided, consciously or not, that growing was optional. So what do standards actually look like when they're healthy? Because somewhere along the way, standards got a bad reputation. They got confused with unrealistic fantasy lists and rigid checklists and the inability to accept a flawed human being. And that is not what I'm talking about at all. A man does not need to be perfect. He needs to be trying. He needs to be consistent in the ways that matter. He needs to communicate even when it's uncomfortable. He needs to show up not just when it's convenient, but when it costs him something. He needs to see you, really see you, and choose to honor what he sees. That is not a high bar. That is a human bar. That is the baseline of what love in action actually looks like. And a man who is genuinely ready for a real relationship does not hear those expectations and feel burdened. He feels challenged in the best possible way. He feels something wake up in him, some part of himself that knew he was capable of more, but needed someone who believed in that more before he could fully access it. Your standards don't scare the right man away. They call the right man forward. They act as a filter and a compass at the same time, clearing out the ones who were never meant to stay and drawing in the ones who have been quietly waiting for a woman who knows her own worth. But here's the part that lives underneath all of this, the part that is really at the heart of everything. You have to believe it yourself first. You cannot hold a standard you secretly feel guilty about having. You cannot require respect from someone else while the voice inside your own head is still calling you too much. The work of standing firm in your worth begins on the inside, in the private conversation you have with yourself when nobody is watching, when there is no one to perform confidence for, when it is just you and the truth of what you believe you deserve. Do you believe you deserve consistency? Do you believe you deserve a man who is emotionally present, not just physically available? Do you believe you deserve to be chosen loudly, not just kept quietly? Do you believe that your love, the real, full, generous, extraordinary love you are capable of giving, deserves to land somewhere that will actually treasure it? Because if you don't believe it yet, that is the only standard that needs work right now, not the ones you place on him, the one you place on yourself. Get rooted in your own value so deeply that no one's unwillingness to meet you there can convince you that the problem is the height of where you're standing. You are not too much. You have just been surrounded by people who were not yet enough. And the moment you stop apologizing for the fullness of who you are, the moment you carry your standards not as a wall, but as a welcome sign for the right person, everything around you begins to shift. Not because you changed who you were, but because you finally fully decided to stop pretending you were someone less.